Good afternoon. Welcome to the inauguration ceremony, Portland Board of Public Education. This inauguration is being held at City Hall in Council Chambers. Board members may be seated. Will the superintendent please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Atkinson?
Here.
Mr. Balfons?
Here.
Ms. Davis? Here. Ms. Morioni? Mr.
Here.
Rodriguez?
Presente.
Ms. Seeliger? Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Vendel?
Here.
Ms. Clater? Ms. Farah? Ms. Power-Rakowski? Ms. Uri? And Chair Terraro.
Here. And could we please ask Ariel Leisure to please come to the dais?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at our twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets wriggling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And may I ask Isabel and Harper to please come to the podium?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to everyone gathered here today for this inauguration. In a little bit, we will officially induct new and returning board members into the Portland Board of Public Education. I want to take this opportunity to personally congratulate our incoming new members, Apusana Bando, known as Mickey, who will represent District 1, and Emily Figdor, who will be our District 2 representative. And a hearty welcome back to at-large Representative Sarah Thompson, who will be serving her 5th term on the board. We also welcome new student representatives to the board, John Dahl Norris, representing Portland High School, and Joseph Inabanza, representing Casco Bay High School, and returning student representative, Anna Powers-Rakowski, representing the Portland Arts and Technology High School. And just today, we learned we have a Deering representative as well. Ali Abdirahman will be joining us from Deering High School. And we also extend a special welcome to Axel Samuntu, who will serve as our first ever Portland Adult Education representative to the board. An inauguration heralds a new beginning, and that's true here today. Today, the addition of new members will result in a new Portland Board of Education, led by a new chair. The board always benefits from having a mix of experienced voices and new ones that can bring fresh insight and perspectives. I myself will continue on the board, but will be passing on the role of chair. Thank you to my fellow board members for granting me the privilege of serving in that role for the past 2 years. When I began as chair 2 years ago, we had just hired our superintendent, Javier Botana, who was diligently working to design and implement the Portland Promise, which is the district's comprehensive plan and commitment to education in Portland. The Portland Promise laid out 4 goals: achievement, equity, whole student, and people, which have become the framework for the district's work ever since. Over the last 2 years, we can cite many accomplishments toward those goals. For instance, this fall, we opened a brand new school, the Amanda C. Rowe Elementary School. We established the buildings for our future advisory committee, and the process to renovate Lizeth Elementary School is now underway, with groundbreaking expected this spring. We were the first district in Maine to institute a Seal of Biliteracy Award this past June, an award that encourages students to achieve mastery in English and one other language. We've passed several meaningful resolutions in the past 2 years, including a resolution on gun violence prevention, resolutions condemning hate speech and asserting a safe haven for Muslim students, a resolution on legal resident voting, and most recently, a resolution reaffirming the board's commitment to pre-K. We adopted the transgender and gender expansive students policy. We launched Parent University in early 2018. We have initiated a community conversation about instituting universal pre-kindergarten. We successfully completed the second year of our educator diversity program called Teach Portland, a program slated for enhancements in January. And just last week, we voted to renew Superintendent Javier Botana's contract for another 3 years. He led the effort to develop and implement the Portland Promise, and we look forward to continuing to work toward its goals under his leadership. The road has been bumpy at times, but we managed to emerge from 2 challenging financial cycles with budgets that support high-quality education and make incremental progress toward the Portland Promise goals, such as making new investments in Portland Adult Ed and investing in a director of social-emotional learning. The latest budget represented the largest taxpayer increase in any recent history, and we have been thankful for the community's continued pro-education stance. We have recently launched an enrollment and facility study to look for potential efficiencies and cost savings. That commission will be making recommendations to the board by early 2019. And as we anticipate continued revenue shortfalls in the next budget cycle, we are preparing in an all-hands-on-deck effort, exploring every opportunity for revenue generation and establishing early and regular communication with the City Council and Portland Legislative Delegation. I know that our board is up for taking on significant challenges. That's because all of us around this dais hold with us in every vote we take the reason we ran for office in the first place. The reason that we serve is to provide every Portland student with the tools they will need to succeed in life and make a difference in the world. I have every confidence that all of us on our newly constituted Portland Board of Public Education will work together to find creative and sustainable solutions that enable the Portland Public Schools to offer all our students the quality education they need and deserve. Thank you. So now we're going to move into our recognition of outgoing board members. We have several outgoing board members this evening. We have Ms. Vendel representing District 1. We have the student representatives. We have Isabel Clater and Tiana Uri. And We also have Miss Seeliger, who wasn't able to join us this evening. We have some prepared remarks. And I'm sorry, I missed one. Also, Saharla Farah is a student rep who's leaving us this evening. And so I'm going to call on Ms. Morioni to make some remarks on Saharla Farah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So unfortunately, Ms. Saharla Farah is not with us tonight, but I will definitely be sending her these remarks on behalf of the full board. It's been such a gift having Saharla on the board and serving us for the past 2 years, representing Deering High School. When Saharla walks in a room, she lights up the room. She is vivacious, she has a strong personality, she's warm, and her demeanor always is amazing, impressive to all of us. She's a true leader, and her work in the areas of conflict management, fighting for equity, and representing her community at Deering High School have been impressive. Besides her hard work in her academics and extracurriculars, she has also been a seed of Seeds of Peace. She is a fellow, a King Fellow of Martin Luther King Fellows, advancing racial equity and social justice, and she represents Greater Portland and all the hard work that she does every day. She will be missed. She's missed right now. And on our board, we wish her the best and success after graduation. She will be graduating this June, and we really hope she stays in touch with us and keeps us abreast of all that she works on. And I know she'll be a leader, not only in Portland, but for our nation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Rodriguez has some remarks about Isabel and Tiana.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. Over the last year, it's been really special to witness the growth of 2 strong and confident young students on this board. Tiana Uri, a student representative from Casco Bay High School, who unfortunately could not join us today, and Isabel Clater, representing Portland High School. I envy your confidence and willingness to enter the arena and rumble with us at every meeting. You literally represent the reasons we are here in the first place. I struggled to figure out how to recognize or capture the immense value that you each bring to this board in a couple of paragraphs. So I decided to share a moment that took place in my house a few months ago. After a school board meeting, I was back in time to see my daughter before her bedtime. It must have been an early release day for the board that evening. I was happy that I had made it home before Marley was asleep, but what she said to me when I was upstairs in her room was really what made that day special. She told me that she and Mom watched some of the school board meeting that evening, and then suggested that the next board meeting, we should let the students talk more, especially Isabel. I didn't know how to respond, but I liked where it was going. So I asked her first, why Isabel? And she said, well, she's the Portland High School rep, and that's where she wanted to go to. And then she went on to say, I just think the students know more about the schools than the rest of you. They know the teachers, the schools, the bus drivers, the principals, and each other. They know pretty much everything that you talk about. My wife agreed. She said they were the best part of watching our meeting, and their perspective was, as it should be, uniquely representative of the young person's point of view, which is critical that we consider and include in any conversations about public education. You represent the most important voices on this board, and I'm honored to have shared space with the 2 of you over the last year. Thank you for your service.
And Ms. Thompson.
I'm going to say a few words about Ms. Vendel, who's behind the floral arrangement over there. I wanted to take a few minutes to say a few words about my colleague and friend, Jenna Vendel, who I've served with for the last 9 years on the school committee and know now as the Board of Education. There's a lot to say about Jenna, as she has accomplished so much in her life thus far, but I will highlight a few of them. I met Jenna when she was a field organizer for the League of Young Voters. Jenna was then and is now a community involvement champion. Jenna has said over the years many times, and I quote, "Every day, people can make a difference on issues that affect their lives." Jenna felt strongly that regardless of socioeconomic status or race, all voices needed to be heard. Jenna has, for her 9 years on the board, and for many years prior to her being on the board, worked to empower and encourage the next generation of leaders to be involved. She believes in the power of education and has encouraged those in our community that feel marginalized or disenfranchised to speak up. Jenna herself has not been afraid to speak up and has been an organizer and strong leader on many social issues. I remember years prior to Jenna being a board member, her reaching out to the superintendent, myself, and my then colleagues on the board, raising an issue of what she felt was racial injustice in our school system. Her passion was evident at that time and still today. Jenna has chaired all, if not almost all, of our committees over the years and has led with the same passion and investment in the work. Just in recent years, Jenna has co-chaired the superintendent search that brought us our current superintendent, chaired our finance committee through a very challenging time, and worked hard to bring the board together as a whole through professional development. She worked to help the board to understand each other's strengths as well as understand each other's leadership styles so that we would work together cohesively on our collective board work. Now this is where I'm going to cry. On a personal note, I have to say Jenna is a good friend and an amazing cook too. During a tough period in my life, my father's passing, Jenna reached out to me and brought myself and my family an out-of-this-world meal that I will never forget. Jenna realized her friend was in need of comfort and stepped right up to let me know she was there. While Jenna is leaving this board, Jenna will really not be leaving us. I know Jenna will still be fully invested in our education system, as well as in the Portland community as a whole. So this is not goodbye, but seeing her go on to other adventures. Thank you, Jenna, for your service and friendship.
And although she couldn't join us tonight, I did want to make some remarks on Holly Seeliger's tenure on the board. Ms. Seeliger has given 6 years of her service to the Board of Education as the representative from District 2. During that time, I've come to know her as someone who never compromises her values in the votes that she takes. This goes back to her very first vote, when she was positioned as a tiebreaker in the vote to elect the next chair. And rather than cast her vote that day, she prompted a postponement so that she could more thoroughly get to know each candidate before deciding. It was an unprecedented move, yet courageous, in a system that is often guided by tradition. Holly exhibits a subtle, principled leadership style. During the last 2 years, she has served as chair of the policy committee, a role that I know has meant a great deal to her. Policy is at the heart of change, and Holly is a change maker. Some of her accolades in that role include advancing the transgender and gender expansive students policy, which safeguards our gender nonconforming students, and the commercial microwave communications technology, including cellular towers, antennas, and equipment policy, a policy which effectively ends the district's current contract allowing for a cell phone tower on Deering High School when it comes up for renewal. Both of these advancements showcase Holly's focus on social justice. We thank Ms. Seeliger for her service to the board. She will be missed. And we do actually have a special recognition this evening. I would ask Councilors Costa and Ali to come to the podium.
Before we do that, can I give this to Ms. Farah, who has been able to join us? So, Saharwa, we're so happy to see you. And you missed a great testimonial to you.
Councilors Costa and Ali.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving us this opportunity. We recognize that this is somewhat unusual since we are no longer members of this body. But at the same time, both of us had the privilege and the opportunity to serve with Ms. Vendel for a long time. And it also felt weird to me if I allowed this occasion to pass without saying something. So I did just want to say quickly, these are difficult jobs. All of you know that. Each of us is called upon to make a lot of really tough decisions, to weigh competing values, to digest an incredible amount of information, and to make oftentimes what feel like impossible choices, often based on things that not everyone in the public is going to understand or even have access to all the information that we have access to. Jenna and I came in to the school board in back-to-back years, in 2008 and 2009, in especially difficult circumstances, as this school district was rebuilding from some pretty serious mismanagement issues, and in the very beginning of the worst financial crisis in a century. We were like 25 at the time, I think. So we were keenly aware of how difficult the job was from day one. And for me, when I think about this, I just want to say that the temptation is always to act like you just want people to agree with you, that you want everyone to understand your point of view, to see where you're coming from, and to recognize your unfailing correctness in all of this. But that's not really what you want. What you want, above all in a colleague, is character. You want to be able to look at people as you're going through these tough times, as you're making tough decisions, and you want to know that the person that you're trying to work through things with is someone that is always going to be honest, that is going to represent their values, that is going to stick up for the people that they believe need to have a voice in all of these complex decisions. Jenna, you have always been that person. I cannot think of a single example in years and years of working together, both on the school board together and now in my new role as a city councilor. I can't think of a single instance in which you have failed to live up to that standard. I am excited for you on a personal level to see what comes next, and I know that you are doing what is best. But for whatever it is still worth, I want you to know that I will sincerely miss having you as a colleague. And the only solace that I have is to know that I will still have you as a friend, even after all of this. So thank you so much for all of your service.
Thank you, Councillor Costa. Jenna, thank you for your service. I met Jenna 10 years ago, or 11 years ago, when the Portland Charter was being written. I was getting ready to go to Seas of Peace, and I received a call from someone who said that, hey, I want to interview you. I think she was working for League of Young Voters then. And Jenna met with me and interviewed me, and issue my story as one of the compelling stories that brought forward the issue of non-citizen immigrants voting in Portland. Since then, I've watched you. You have motivated a lot of people, a lot of young people in the community. The first time I walked into City Hall is because Jenna invited me. I've forgotten what it was. She reached out to me, and I came and testified. Since then, I have had the opportunity and the privilege of working with you on the board. When I was on the board, of course, I'm everybody's friend. However, anytime things got a little bit hard and I needed someone to talk to, I will always text Jenna and say that, hey, do you want to hang out after the meeting? And it doesn't matter how late it is, Jenna will always say yes. And we will go over things because Jenna has some years on me on serving on the school board. So Jenna, thank you very much. You've motivated a lot of people. Actually, you are one of the people that I look up to that made me run for school board. My first donation to any political candidate was with you at East, is it a Star East coffee shop up on Mine Joy Hill? So you have motivated me, and I've looked up to you, and thank you for your service. I know I've not been asked to speak to people who are coming in, but I'm going to ask if it's okay. I'm going to do that. Mickey, thank you for stepping up Jenna is going to leave big shoes, and I'm sure that you're going to be able to fill those shoes. And like I said before, the parents from the immigrant community, I've told them not to call me again. There you are. If you are here, you have Mickey's phone number. Call her. Nobody should call me. Thank you and congratulations to all of you.
Before we move on, I just want to also mention another person who is stepping down from a role, and that would be Chair Terraro. Anna, you have been a tremendous partner in the work for the past 2 years. When you started on the board as chair, we all know that those were difficult times for the school board, and you have become the steadying influence that has allowed this board to make it through some very, very difficult times. Your always calm, patient, thoughtful demeanor has meant the world to me as I've done this work. I will miss our Wednesday afternoons, every Wednesday at 4:45 for agenda setting and planning, and I am thrilled that you will still be with the board and carrying forward some very, very important responsibilities in that role. As you know, one of the parting gifts for the retiring chair is to bring your very own gavel home with you. So I'm not sure what you're going to do with it, but if you ever need to, get things settled at home, you can just hit the gavel and be ready to go. So again, thank you on behalf of all of the board. Certainly from my part, you've been a tremendous partner in this work, and I can't thank you enough for having done that for 2 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent, and likewise. Okay, that brings us to the swearing in of new members. So at this time, I'll ask Mickey Bondo to go, and Emily Figdor, and Ms. Thompson, and all of our new student reps to come to the center of the dais.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, so long as I shall continue as citizen thereof, faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities the duties incumbent upon me as a member of the school board, and as a school board representative student representative. And as a student representative. According to the said constitutions. Laws of the state. And ordinances of the city.
congratulations, everyone, and welcome. And at this time, I'll invite you to change seats with the outgoing board members that you will be replacing. And will the superintendent call the new roll of the 2018-2019 Portland Board of Public Education?
With pleasure, Madam Chair. Mr. Atkinson?
Here.
Ms. Balfont, Mr. Balfonts?
Here.
Ms. Bondo? Ms. Vigdor?
Here.
Ms. Davis?
Here.
Ms. Morioni?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Trevorrow?
Here.
Mr. Inabanza? Mr. Norris? Ms. Power-Rakowski?
Here.
Mr. Samuntu? Mr. Abdirahman? And Mr. Rodriguez.
Presente.
And now we'll move into the election of the Portland Board of Public Education Chairperson for 2018-2019. And this is going to go just exactly the way that we did it in caucus a couple weeks ago. So I'll, at this time, call for nominations for chair. Mr. Atkinson,
I'd like to nominate Roberto Rodriguez.
are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll close nominations and invite Mr. Atkinson to speak to his nomination.
I actually didn't bring prepared remarks because I had them last time, but I'll wing it a little bit and keep it short and simple. Roberto, Mr. Rodriguez is an ideal candidate to be chair of the board. He's represented us on so many occasions, including with the Maine School Board Assembly just recently. He's, as he mentioned earlier in his talk about the student reps, he's been a champion around bringing student voice to the forefront in our work, and beyond that, the many, many other things that he does. I wish I had the paper in front of me, but he's going to do an amazing job, and I'm really excited to see him as chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez, do you have any comments?
Yes, I'll be very brief. Since there was only one nomination, I just wanted to sincerely thank Mr. Atkinson for his trust and his support. If I have the opportunity to give some remarks in a few minutes, I'll save my comments for then. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll do this by voice vote. So when your name is called, please state the name who you wish to support for chair of the Board of Education.
Mr. Atkinson?
Roberto Rodriguez.
Mr. Balfont?
Roberto Rodriguez.
Ms. Bondo?
Mr. Rodriguez.
Ms. Victor?
Mr. Rodriguez.
Ms. Davis?
Mr. Rodriguez.
Ms. Morioni?
Roberto Rodriguez.
Ms. Thompson?
Roberto Rodriguez. You got me. We say it 20 times. Roberto Rodriguez.
I'm setting a really high bar for this Rodriguez business, so thank you, everybody, for trying to stay with me on that. Mr. Varro?
Mr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Inabanza? Mr. Norris? Ms. Power-Rakowski?
Mr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Samuntu? Mr. Abdirahman? And Señor Rodriguez.
Roberto Rodriguez.
It is unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Rodriguez. At this time, I'll invite you to take the gavel.
Guys, we have a year to get it down. Rodriguez. not entirely sure what we're supposed to do now. Right. So right now, I'd like to invite Leah, Avery, and Jack up to the dais to read the Portland Creed.
I am a citizen of Portland, of Maine, and of the United States. It is my right and my duty to make an honest living, and to be comfortable and happy. It is my privilege and my honor to help others to secure these benefits. I will work hard and play fair. I will be kind to all, especially to little children, to old people, to the unfortunate, and to animals. I will help to make Portland a clean, beautiful, law-abiding city. These are the best services I can render to my city, my state, and my country.
Now we're going to have a musical interlude, a vocal performance Poor Butterfly by Hubble. Thank you all. I forgot to formally introduce him. That was Joey Lancia from Deering High School, accompanied by Dr. Peter Stickney, his musical teacher. I suppose I have a year to get it down to. And now we'll have a few minutes for my inauguration remarks. Bienvenidos. My name is Roberto Rodriguez. I don't have a middle name. I'm part of the approximately 20% of Americans without a middle name. My name is incredibly common in Latin America. It's practically the equivalent of a John Smith. According to census data, Rodriguez is the 7th most common last name used in the United States. I'm the youngest of 3 children. My 2 sisters each have unique names. My oldest sister's name is Limari Rodriguez. I'm not kidding you, from 1880 until 2017, the Social Security Administration has recorded 40 babies born to the name Limari. My other sister, her name is Moraima Rodriguez. That name is shared by about 7,000 people worldwide. For comparison, that's close to the current total enrollment of Portland Public Schools. When I was born, the 3rd child, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure my dad said something like, enough with these cute little girly names. In one swift move, he completely dismissed any creativity by deciding to call me Roberto. He named me after himself. I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I grew up in a town called Carolina. I also lived in El Distrito Federal in Mexico for 3 years from ages 10 to 13 before my family relocated to Miami, Florida, where I continued to grow up, kind of, until 2011, when I moved to Maine with my wife Alexis and my then 2-year-old daughter Marley. I like to say that I just took the scenic route to get here. 2 things have been constant in my world right up to that point. First, it had been summer my entire life. Mind you that I arrived to Maine in January, which was like taking a crash course on winter. Second, the people around me had always looked, sounded, and danced like me and my family. I admit I was not aware and did not recognize its significance before moving to Maine. Let me say a little bit more about what this means. My mother, Carmen Diaz, or Mommy, raised me to be aware and to be proud that I am Puerto Rican. It was always reinforced what that meant, which is honoring the mixed heritage that make up our culture. For example, I have memories as a little boy learning stories of Taíno culture and history. Agüeybaná el Bravo, a Taíno cacique, or a tribal leader, who led a rebellion against Juan Ponce de León in Borinquen, which is the indigenous name for the island and the reason why us Puerto Ricans often refer to each other as Boricuas. I also grew up in neighborhoods where Santeria and Yoruba religions are practiced. I was keenly aware of the influence from our African ancestors who were stolen from their homeland and enslaved in our island. I never lacked examples around me of people that I could relate to, or people who encouraged me to embrace my culture, and of people who shared my values. This continued when I lived in Mexico and definitely in Miami, where Latino culture is so prevalent. I often saw people who represented the beauty of Latino communities with pride. That experience was immensely valuable and really shaped me as a person. Life as I knew it in Puerto Rico, Mexico, and Miami came to an end rather quickly after arriving to Maine. Talk about a crash course through winter. As a new Mainer, I took a crash course on how to navigate a white world for the first time. I went into this whole transaction with a very positive mindset, by the way. My wife and I purposely and with great caution chose Portland as our future home. I knew what I was getting myself into, but I was exposed to a world I did not fully understand at first, but the experiences have enriched me as a person. I won't mince words. Representation matters in so many ways. For the first time in my life, I often find myself the only person of color in a room and the only one who speaks Spanish or speaks English with a funny accent. And everybody is always concerned about my ability to survive winters. I had to, as an adult, relearn how to navigate social settings, work relationships with colleagues as a physical therapist assistant, and of course, with the patients I cared for. Even with my family, I saw myself gradually undergoing a process of transformation, starting with my name. I had always used Robert growing up. That was partly because that was actually the least common version I could use. And it was also a colonial mindset influence. For those who are not familiar with the term, a colonial mindset is a kind of internalized oppression that conditions colonized people to believe that their ethnic or cultural identity is inferior to Western culture or whiteness. Once I set foot in Maine, it didn't take long for that to change, and I quickly started introducing myself to people as Roberto, por favor. Honestly, it was part of my decolonization process as well. I use that name because ultimately it makes me proud of my heritage, and it reminds me that my presence in a small part is a small part of the rich diversity that makes communities like Portland a great place to live. For the same reason, every meeting I have attended as a board member, when the superintendent calls the roll, I answer to my name with presente. It's a reminder not only to myself, but to everyone in the room and the TV audience at home, that there are different voices and people from various backgrounds who need to be considered and included when we come together to discuss and make decisions about our schools, our students, and their families in Maine's largest and most diverse school district. When I first thought of running for this school board seat in 2016, I wasn't sure how I would answer people when they asked why I was doing it. Up to that point, my interactions with Portland Public Schools have been mostly positive ones, so I didn't have a big beef I needed to settle. Superintendent Botana had just been hired, so it's not like I was coming in to challenge him. Not yet. My daughter, as far as my wife and I were concerned, was going through a great elementary school experience, with amazing teachers and very responsive administration about any concerns brought up. Similarly, it was challenging at first to figure out why I would want to be the next chair of this incredible board. This is where the new Mainer story I was just telling you about takes a turn. You see, I've grown so much as a person since moving to Maine. I may resist saying that I've changed, but I've certainly done things I never knew even existed before moving here. You ever heard of ice climbing? When I first heard a friend talk about ice climbing, I thought he was kidding me, and I refused to fall for it. Like, yeah, right, you climb the ice with your little axe. Well, over the last 5 years, he and I go on ice climbing trips every winter. I also found a love for winter hiking in the mountains and spending time outdoors in nature during the winter months. Summer, the season I thought I was an expert on, is now a completely different experience. It comes with an expiration date. That somehow led me to learn how to garden, how to grow vegetables in my backyard, and how to own and operate a business where people pay me to grow vegetables for them. Another new experience was volunteering in school. I have volunteered in my daughter's classrooms since she was in kindergarten. I've met and engaged every teacher she's had. I have built relationships with other parents in the community and coached their daughters in flag football teams over the last 3 years. Spring softball this last year. I never imagined I would ever experience these things that were foreign to me. Upon reflection, it is through these experiences that I became connected to this community at a personal and deeply meaningful way. These experiences have made me fall in love with the city of Portland and its wonderful people who make me feel welcome, embraced, and valued. You inspired me to run for a board seat. And furthermore, I want to give back to the community that transformed me from Robert to Roberto. As Roberto, I have to say that it is affirming that my fellow board members have given me the privilege of serving as a board chair for the coming year. Thank you very much for your support and confidence in me. I promise to do my best in leading this board and to honor your trust. Much of what I will do as board chair is what I have tried to do in the last 2 years as board member. I will come to every meeting prepared, engaged with the work, supportive of the superintendent, responsive to constituents, collaborative with my colleagues, and understanding of staff concerns in administration and concerns of staff in school. Most importantly, I will make decisions that are always in the best interest of our students. The work of the Portland Board of Public Education is essential to achieving our overarching goals of meeting the needs of all of our students as outlined in our Portland Promise. Let's be the best board that we can be and move this work forward. The coming year will be in many ways like other years the board has faced, incredibly challenging and involving difficult decisions. I doubt we will all agree all the time, but as a good friend often reminds me when I feel overwhelmed, things will eventually land somewhere and the dust will settle. We need to be willing to work together to come up with the best solutions for our students. That's what people expect us to do, and that's what I hope I can help us achieve. Muchas gracias. Is there a motion to adjourn the business meeting? Ms. Laurie? Oh, Ms. Davis, excuse me, seconded by Mr. Balfins. All those in favor? Unanimous with the students, the majority. The meeting is adjourned.